Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The translation of that message, it reads like this. Hello, how are you? Can you please post my own story? I want to share the regret and the suffering that I have to carry in my heart on a daily basis. It was way back in 2010. I was a different person then. I was really young, I was full of bitterness and I was full of anger, but not the kind that you can easily talk about. The bitterness, it came from feeling like I had been thrown aside by my own family, my siblings and parents, people I thought would always support me. In my heart, I had told myself that these people, they really did not even care about me. But now I can't even fall asleep without feeling really bad because of my choices that I made. And let me try to start from the beginning. I am the eldest son in my family, and as the eldest, I always believed that I would play a very significant role in each and every family decision that we would be making, but that is not what happened. Over time, it became clear that my siblings and even my parents did not see me that way. You see, in their eyes, I had one major mistake, choosing a wife that they did not approve of. That was the start of my downfall in their eyes. My wife was not the person that they would have chosen for me. They thought that she was not good enough or that she did not have the right qualities to fit into our family. But I loved my wife a lot, and that should have been enough for them. Unfortunately, it was not enough. From the day that we got married, I felt a change in my family, and the way that they would talk behind my wife's back and the way that they just hated her. You could tell that they were never going to accept her to become part of the family, and it was really painful. My parents, instead of them being grown-ups, they were the ones that were leading this change. They told my siblings not to get too close to me, to keep a distance, even though I was their eldest brother. They said to my siblings, help him if you must, but do not involve yourself too closely with him because of that woman. It was like an unspoken rule now in the family that I was the outsider. My siblings followed my parents' instructions, and soon I felt like a stranger in my own home that would make decisions, hold gatherings, and talk about important family matters, all without me. And my wife, she being a good woman, she tried, usually when a woman starts to stay with you, she tries by all means to be a good person, to love your relatives so that they can love her back. She tried everything she could to win them over. She would prepare food, even to go out of the way to buy my mother clothes, buy them gifts, and help around the house whenever we visited. But this did not even matter at all. They were never going to accept her, never treated her with respect. She will come back home in tears, telling me how they had given her endless chores and insulting her as if she was nothing. Watching her go through that, it really broke me. I was a husband, yet I could not even protect her, could not make my own family treat her well. There were times that I tried to speak to my parents, to plead with them, to ask them to see her as I did, but every attempt was met with rejection. They would brush me off or tell me that I had chosen this path, that it was my mistake. My mother was the worst. She made it clear that I was no longer part of the family, and I made, until I had made things right, until I had left my wife, then they would allow me to become part of the family again. Finally, I reached a breaking point. I felt as if I was trapped, helpless, like there was no way out of this constant rejection and pain. That was when I went to a church. This church, it is in Jewish. So it is a white garment church. When I went there, Brother Nashi, I just wanted to be given some charms, at least some charms that could help me out. When I arrived at that church, I was then told that there was another man who was staying in that same village, but this man, he was a red garment prophet. If I could give him enough money, he could find a solution no matter how difficult it was going to be. I did not know much about what I was getting myself into, but I was desperate, for I wanted revenge and I did not care about the cost. The leader of that church at the time was an old man. I explained my situation to him, pouring out my bitterness and my anger, telling him about the isolation, the disrespect, and the pain that I had been put through by my own family. He listened to me and told me that if I wanted to see change, if I truly wanted to free of the pain my family was causing me, I would need to make an altar. He said that this altar would allow me to release my bitterness and transfer the bitterness, the burden, to those that had wronged me. I spent 12 days on that mountain in isolation building that altar. Every day I would work on it, and every day I spoke my anger, curses against my family and frustrations into the altar. I told the altar that all the pain my mother had caused my wife, all the rejection from my siblings, all the disrespect from my father, I wanted a go back to sender. It was supposed to go back to them. I wanted them to feel the same as isolation and suffering that they had once forced upon me. The church leader told me that my altar will need a sacrifice, a blood sacrifice, just like in the Old Testament, for it to be complete, something valuable to seal my wishes. He instructed me to bring a cow so that we can slaughter this cow. I had enough money. Then I ended up buying a young bull. We sacrificed that young bull on top of that altar, and then it started. My family's suffering began shortly after that. My eldest sister, who was my cousin, she was happily married. She was abandoned. Her husband left her, and to this day, she is still back at her parents' house, unable to remarry or to move forward. My other sisters are in similar situations, unmarried, struggling, unable to find peace. And as for my mother, she has been plagued by high blood pressure, a chronic illness, a constant reminder of the anger that I poured into that altar. But what hit me hardest was the truth that came about my father. I discovered that for years he had been having an affair with my mother's closest friend, and he even as a child with my mother's closest friend, right under everyone's noses. My mother, she does not know anything, but this is the secret that I have been holding in my heart. I don't know if I am supposed to inform the family that when I went to Chibueshe, even though I left an altar there, but this is the truth that I have learned, for the prophet even told me the name of that man whom we thought that maybe he is a child of our neighbor, but he is my father's child. And he told me that this is nothing but the truth. So I don't know if I am supposed to confront my father or to tell my mother to give her more pain. So apart from that, the problems that started happening between me and my wife is that for a very long time, my wife, she could not conceive. Later on, when I returned back to Chiweshe, that was when I was told that we were supposed to stay for 6 good years. My wife will never be able to conceive or to give me a child until those years get passed. Now we have a child, but the problem is that this child has epilepsy. We try by all means to give him proper medical care and attention, but it is not going away. It is affecting him at school. If there are traditional healers who knows how to deal with this condition, you can give them my phone numbers. That altar, it is still there in the mountain there in Chiweshe. That was not the only altar that I saw. There are other people that were building their altars as well, doing go back to sender prayers. But if I was to be asked to do it again, I'll never do it, for I have seen that it is not a good thing to sacrifice bulls on top of mountains. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our brother right there. That was the translation of the message that he sent to me. Strange things indeed they do happen in this world.